In the autumn of 1855, a schoolteacher in Port Huron, Michigan, wrote that a 7-year-old boy named Thomas Edison had a mind that was addled, too damaged to be taught. The boy overheard him say it. He stormed out of the classroom and ran home. He never went back. 3 months. That's how long Thomas Edison lasted in formal school. His teacher, the Reverend G.B. Engel, told his mother the boy was a disruption, slow, possibly defective. He recommended she stop wasting everyone's time. His father agreed. Samuel Edison would later say he could make nothing of his youngest son, that the boy seemed wanting in ordinary good sense. What happened next would create the most prolific inventor in human history. Over 1,000 patents, the phonograph, the motion picture camera, the electrical grid that powers entire cities. But something else happened too. Something Edison carried with him for the rest of his life. A wound that never fully healed. 2 years before the schoolroom, when Edison was 5 years old, his father made a decision that would mark the boy permanently. Thomas had burned down the family barn. He'd set a small fire inside just to see what it would do. The flames spread faster than he expected. The whole structure was destroyed. The town might have gone up in smoke if the wind had shifted. Samuel Edison, a stern and restless man who had once fled Canada on foot to avoid prison for political rebellion, decided this crime required a public punishment. The next morning, in the cobblestone square of Milan, Ohio, in front of neighbors and their children, Samuel Edison whipped his youngest son. He had announced it in advance. He wanted witnesses. Edison remembered every detail 60 years later. The morning light, the crowd gathering, the sting of each blow, the silence of the children watching. He wrote about it with detachment, almost clinical distance, but he never once spoke warmly of his father again. "My father thought I was stupid," Edison wrote late in life, "and I almost decided I must be a dunce." Almost. His mother, Nancy, saw something different. She had been a schoolteacher before her marriage. She had educated dozens of children in rural Canada and knew what a slow mind looked like. Her son did not have one. When the Reverend Engel called Thomas addled, Nancy Edison walked into that schoolroom the very next morning and confronted him directly. The argument grew heated. She told the teacher he understood nothing about her son. Then she withdrew Thomas permanently and took him home. She did not try to fix him. She did not drill him on grammar or force him to memorize dates. Instead, she handed him a book. R.G. Parker's School of Natural Philosophy, a guide to scientific experiments a child could perform at home. Electricity, chemistry, mechanics. The book treated the reader not as a student to be lectured, but as an investigator with questions worth answering. Edison devoured it in days, then asked for more. Nancy gave him Newton, gave him books on physics, on electricity, on the principles of the telegraph. When he asked questions she couldn't answer, she didn't pretend. She found books that could. When he wanted to try a dangerous experiment, she didn't forbid it. She cleared a space. "My mother was the making of me," Edison said decades later. "She understood me. She let me follow my bent." His bent was unusual. He didn't learn by listening or memorizing. He learned by doing, by testing, failing, adjusting, and trying again, by touching the thing itself. The school system called this a defect, a disorder. His mother called it a method. By age 10, Edison had constructed a working chemistry laboratory in the cellar of his family's home in Port Huron. Glass jars lined the wooden shelves. Copper wires ran along the damp walls. Bottles of chemicals, some of them genuinely dangerous, sat in careful rows. He labeled every single one poison, not as a warning to himself, but to keep his father and siblings from touching his equipment. His father thought it was madness, a waste of time and money. Samuel offered Thomas cash, actual payment, if he would read normal books instead of playing with acids and wires. Thomas took the money, then spent every cent on more chemicals. Down in that cellar, something was taking shape. Not just knowledge, a way of thinking, a belief that any question, no matter how impossible it seemed, could be answered if you were willing to test it. Fail, adjust, test again. No teacher gave him this, no curriculum, no school. It came from somewhere else, from being told he could not learn and deciding, in the quiet of that basement, that they were wrong. That quiet decision, I am not broken, my mind works differently, became the foundation of everything Edison built afterward. He returned to it constantly, in the years when experiments failed for months at a time, when investors walked away, when newspapers called him a fraud. That kind of internal voice, steady, certain, immune to outside doubt, doesn't come naturally to most people. It has to be built, reinforced, practiced. If you want a structured way to work on that daily, there's an app called Affirmations, link in the description. By 15, Edison was working as an itinerant telegraph operator, drifting between small towns across the Midwest. By 22, he had sold his first serious invention. By 29, he had founded something the world had never seen. Menlo Park, New Jersey. Not just a workshop, an invention factory. A laboratory designed to produce not one breakthrough, but dozens, hundreds, on schedule. The method he used was the same one he had discovered in that basement. Relentless experimentation. No theory accepted without physical testing. No failure discarded without extracting its lesson. When he set out to create a practical incandescent light bulb, he tested over 3,000 materials for the filament. Bamboo, horsehair, fishing line, cedar shavings, coconut shell, cotton thread. When assistants grew frustrated, Edison kept working. When journalists asked how he endured 10,000 failures, he corrected them. He hadn't failed 10,000 times. He had found 10,000 things that didn't work, which meant he was 10,000 steps closer to the thing that would. This was not patience. This was certainty. The same certainty a boy develops when the world tells him he cannot learn, and he proves them wrong, alone, in a cellar, one experiment at a time. Nancy Edison died in April of 1871. Thomas was 24 years old. He had just opened his first real manufacturing shop in Newark. His name was beginning to appear in trade journals. He was becoming the man she always believed he could be. But he did not make it home in time to say goodbye. Years later, going through her belongings, Edison found a letter. It was the letter the Reverend Engel had written in 1855, the one that called his mind addled, the one that had ended his formal education after 3 months. His mother had kept it all those years, folded and hidden away. But next to it, In her handwriting was a note. She had never told Thomas what the teacher actually wrote. She had read the letter, set it aside, and told her son only what she believed, that he was not slow, that his mind was exceptional, that he would accomplish things the teacher could not imagine. Edison wept. The most prolific inventor in history, a man who had lit entire cities, recorded the human voice, and captured motion on film, sat alone with a scrap of paper and cried. He had proven his teacher wrong 1,000 times over. But his mother had known first.